Starting to reel me in, Victor. Unless they live in our ocean.
And I challenge anyone to tell me there aren't demons among us.
All I know is that I do believe in beings that are not of this earth, angels and demons.
For anything, I can only say what happened to me. It was 100% real, and it completely changed my view of the world.
And so if another person sees an alien, maybe I see an angel or a demon.
I sincerely believe it, which is that these are spiritual phenomena, obviously. They've been here forever. There's a lot of evidence of that in the written record going back thousands
What do you
of
mean?
years. They're angels and demons, of course.
I had a very high-ranking member of the Navy describe some underwater experiences they'd had with something that was doing 200 miles. And the best thing we got is probably 40.
It was doing 200 miles an hour underwater?
Underwater, big as a football field. And that's no fish.
So is it possible, given our current understanding of physics, for any man-made machine to go anywhere near 200 miles an hour underwater?
Not with our technology, no. The best we have is probably in the high 30s.
Yeah, that's right. They actually said that. Even J. Vance. And do you know why would someone like them risk a public ridicule or risk being called somebody with a tinfoil hat? Well, because you have to admit it now. Nobody can hide it anymore. After all this recent sightings and millions of eyewitnesses like what happened in New Jersey. It's not anymore some military pilot somewhere over the ocean and is sworn to secrecy under the penalty of treason. So when the existence is confirmed, the question remains, it actually becomes who knows about it and what it is. Actually, the answer is very simple. What was hidden from the last generation by the indoctrination and our school and the media. Until 100 years ago, everybody was religious, at least to some extent, no matter what the religion is, because all religions had some mention of different beings that live in the spiritual world, if I may say that. And they have the ability to cross to our world. They always have abilities and knowledge beyond our own. These are actually angels and demons. Unfortunately, for the modern person, that is actually science fiction, nothing more than that. Because we were taught that if we can't see it, it doesn't exist. Religions, however, are based on faith and on what our Creator told us, since He is the one who created our realm, and these aliens actually are given some attributes that we don't have. Islam, for example, is based on the Holy Quran. That is a miracle by itself. It's a book. It's a miracle book. It has all the scientific evidences mentioned in it that were mentioned 1400 years ago, and they were discovered only a couple of decades ago by our modern science. According to the true word of God, He first created the angels out of light, His light. They have the ability, the angels, to think, but they don't have a will of their own, and they cannot do anything that God didn't allow them to do or order them to do. There are many kinds of angels with different tasks and responsibilities. The greatest one is Jibril, or Gibrail, who is responsible for delivering the word of God to his messengers on earth. There are also Michael or Israfel and the angel of death as an example of some of the great ones. Also, every person, every one of us has guardian angels, as well as angels that write every little deed you do that you will be responsible for on the day of judgment. So God also, sometime later, after He created the demons that are called jinn actually in Islam, they were created, which were created about 3,000 years before Adam and Eve. So they were created out of fire, not light like angel, and therefore they were fiery, meaning very aggressive and easily triggered to fight and take revenges for minor things between them. They always had some fights and wars between them. Because of their nature, they were in constant state of battle between the different tribes and kinds of demons. There are, like us, many kinds of many races. Some can fly, some can dive, and some are able even to shapeshift. One of them, of these races, was unlike the other. I mean, one gene of these races was unlike the others, and he worshipped God, and he was rewarded for it. He worshipped him so much that he was given the right to fight alongside angels when they were sent to defeat these demons and stop the wars. Then God created us from the clay and dust and ordered all creatures to bow to Adam for the knowledge that he gave him. But Lucifer, who was that jinn, was too proud to obey and said, I'm better than him. I'm made of fire and he's just made of dirt. So God cast him out of the paradise, and we all know how he came and tricked Adam and Eve to eat from the only forbidden tree in paradise. So you all must understand that the demons are made invisible to us because they exist in the spectrum of light that is beyond the infrared frequency, while the angels, they exist in the spectrum of light that is above the ultraviolet. Humans are able to see in between these frequencies. This is all scientifically proven. Actually, God told us that the rooster, chicken rooster, is able to see the angels, and they work in shifts that change every day at the time of the afternoon prayers in Islam and at the dawn early morning. If you have access to chicken or roosters, this is exactly the time they start their cuckoo. On the other hand, dogs and donkeys are able to see the demons, especially at night. And if the dog starts barking or the donkey making loud noises suddenly in the middle of the night, they actually saw a demon. There is another funny fact. Tesla car owners with night vision that see infrared have reported seeing people on the screen at night while nobody is outside the car, especially at graveyards where the demons like actually to stay. So in the Quran, God mentioned that Prophet Solomon was given the ability to control these demons, and they used to build huge monuments for him, as well as dive deep in the sea to bring him gold and rubies and stuff. So they were his slaves actually until the day he died. Then they went free, and nobody could control them after that. So they live among us, just not visible to us unless they take an animal shape or a human shape, or they show themselves somehow. They can do that. They have that ability. They live thousands of years more, and they have abilities that we don't have. And they are not aliens from another planet, because no human or demon even can penetrate the dome above us, which is heavily guarded by angels. That's something for some other time. We'll talk about it. They live underwater in our houses, and they love abandoned houses, especially because the human don't bother them. They like their privacy sort. So when we made the atomic bomb, in the 40s, 50s, they saw that we are going to take the road of destruction they took. So they made the first official contact in the 50s. After that, Admiral Byrd, you can Google him, encountered them at the South Pole. That was the moment the Antarctic Treaty was signed by every country in the world, and it stated that no one is to explore the Antarctic or try to exploit its vast reaches beyond a couple of points at the South Pole, and you will get shot actually if you try and go by yourself. More on that on another video. Of course, that's when NASA was formed also. We'll talk about some other video. A small group of people were told the truth about the world at that time and what it really looks like, and about the range that we have with these demons. Actually, the demon world allows us since then to gradually get some of their technology in return for our worship and obedience. This is just a general explanation, but we will go in more details in the future in some other videos. I hope you liked this video. If you found value in this, please consider giving it a like or a dislike if not. Okay, it's okay as well. And you can subscribe to get the rest of this knowledge in the future videos and what is actually going on around us. I will go in very detailed details. Okay, so anyway, tell me in the comment what do you think about all of this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Why would we put something in the air around our best pilots that could have a crash? Because these guys are talking about there's actually, they've come close to collisions. Why would they do that? They would not do that.
No.
That would be stupid.
No,
I mean,
sure.
I just don't think that we'd be risking that. So that's my proof that it's not ours. A trusted friend. And I said, sure, send them, bring them up, come on up to D.C. And I said, well, they don't want to come to D.C. And they drove from wherever to my house in East Tennessee on a Saturday afternoon. And then they put some stuff on a screen that was pretty compelling.
What was it?
It was aircraft flying at just crazy stuff that we can't do that would turn you or me into basically a catch-up package. It was not...
no human being could handle the G-force.
No, not at our... Well, with the technology we have, the G-force would just have tore them apart. And, was it unmanned or whatever? I don't know. But these guys, and one of them was they were scientists. Several of them were scientists. And
Who came to see you?
They came to see me. Yeah. And because it's kind of...
Wait, so what do you do with that information?
I try to grasp it within my very small brain. And what am I supposed to do with that? I ask God all the time, what do you want me to do with this stuff, Lord? And right now, I'm just got to get enough disclosure. I've come to the realization that nothing is ever going to happen, Tucker, until we have somebody in the White House that says enough is enough. We've had sworn testimony where they'll say, yeah, I've seen beings. There's a movie coming out.
Hold on. And the testimony says this is sworn testimony.
Sworn testimony. They're beings, and there's saucers or some craft or something. But there's a movie coming out pretty soon, if it's ever allowed to come out. I was in it a little bit, and you have former members of the CIA. You have others that positively say they were there. And they identified these things. They diagnosed them, and they saw them. They saw the craft. And, there's enough people out there saying it, but they're just so suppressed. Yeah. And I've had military personnel call me and tell me that they've chased these things. They've been in the water. I had one guy tell me a story. He was an officer, and he was in the water fishing off, I think it was on the East Coast, and this huge craft flew over them, and then these several jets were flying, trying to keep up with it. And he identified the jets because he was obviously an Air Force officer, and he said, "Look, I just want you to continue on this thing. You're not. A lot of people have seen stuff," and he said, "I have," and I mean, he had a distinguished career. And the phone rang, and it was him, and he said, "Timbo," he said, "I just saw you on TV on the UFO show." And I said, "Really?" And I thought, here it comes. He's going to pop me. He said, "Let me tell you a story about when I was in the Navy." And he was older, and he was hollering back at his wife, "What year was that?" And she would holler. I think it was in the late 50s. And he was on I believe it's a tin can, but that's a destroyer. You probably know more. But anyway, he was in the Navy, and he said it was early on when they were first putting nuclear missiles on subs. They were unloading a missile for the sub, and he said the sub got out there, and then this thing just flew over the top of them. He said, I remember him said, "Timbo, if that thing was 2 city blocks, it had to be 2 city blocks wide." He said it was cylindrical, and he named it, and he described it, and then he said it. He said it just took off. No noise, no heat, no vapor, nothing. And they all just stood there, And we're talking, they're going, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
You know, and then they get back on shore, they go back to shore, and he said that, you know, the men in the suit, he said, I figured it was CIA or something. And they said, if y'all don't, this is national security, if you ever talk about this, you'll be busting rocks for the rest of your life, if you're lucky.
So that attitude has not changed?
Not one bit.
No.
I'm going to kick it off with this upcoming UFO documentary via The Hollywood Reporter and Variety. It's called The Age of Disclosure. It's by a filmmaker named Dan Farah, and it features on-the-record interviews with 34 current and former senior members of the U.S. government, military, intelligence committee, and beyond, with direct knowledge of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, which is the new name for UFOs. I guess it's more inclusive. The film contends that there has been an 80-year cover-up of the existence of non-human intelligent life and a secret war among major nations to reverse engineer UFO technology. Some of those interviewed include now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and many others, including some like Lou Elizondo, who's been on the show talking about UAPs in the past. There is a documentary that is out. It just hit yesterday. There's a trailer for the documentary, and here's the trailer.
We've had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours.
These are otherworldly things that are performing maneuvers that haven't been seen.
There's a whole fleet of them. I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees. People have been hurt protecting and hiding this information.
Some people claim it would cost them their lives if they spoke out about these things.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
And he followed me out and said, you know, Tim, or Congressman or whatever, he said that thing was 14 feet. And he went like this from my canopy. And I thought to myself, why didn't he say 15? Why didn't he say 20? But he said 14. And then he said this thing, it wasn't ours. He said, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't ours.
Anyway, we just sat there and he unveiled this mind-blowing thing to me. Proceeded to tell me that I was part of a project that started in 1960, I believe it was, and the genesis of it was in 1947. We came in contact with an alien species, and 1960 they started a project. It was called Project Preserve Destiny. It was designed to genetically manage fetuses, human fetuses, so that they would have the heightened ability to do this particular thing that I was going to school for. My mother was one of the selected targets, or whatever you want to call it. The result of it was that it gave me the ability to have this communications.
That was in order for you to become an intuitive communicator who is basically able to receive messages from...
Well, receive and transmit.
Receive and transmit.
Yeah, communicate basically, back and forth.
And he's telling you all of this?
Yeah, he said that's what my job would be doing, or that's what my job would be to do that, yes.
If what they're saying is true, it remakes everything, because you go back through all of history then and you say these people were communicating with humans and imparting knowledge, and this accounts for that, and this technological this, and wars, and all of these. It affects religion, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam. It affects everything. It would be a totality of a remaking of assumed knowledge, of empiricism, of technology, of religion, of politics, everything.
I feel better now, and all of a sudden I had this horrible pain underneath my arms. like on the side of my chest, like bad. I thought I'd been like ripped with a knife or something. It just was very intense. So I go into the bathroom, I flip on the light, and I have claw marks on both sides, on right and left side on my ribs, and they're bleeding. And they're literally claw marks, 4 on either side. I put my fingers in them, don't fit my fingers, and I sleep on my side. So how could? And by the way, no one woke up. So I show my wife, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I have this like crazy intense desire to read the Bible. So I read the Bible, and I pass out in like 2 minutes, and I wake up, and the next morning I thought, "Man, did I have a wild dream?" And then I see blood in my sheets, and I go in the bathroom, and I have these bloody marks. And my wife goes, "I think you were attacked by some supernatural being." And I was like trying to be logical about it. And I was like, "Yeah, I definitely was." And then I called one of my producers who's like, "Oh yeah, well, that's pretty common." I was like, "What?" We are the subject of massive supernatural influence all the time. And every other civilization from the beginning of time has acknowledged this and written about it and left artifacts that point to that belief. And only in the last 80 years have we just foreclosed that possibility, and we've embraced this, the dumbest religion ever created, scientism, which is like, "Oh, I can't measure that. It's not real." Oh, shut up. And if you look at the US government propaganda, DOD propaganda, on the question of UFOs, UAPs, the one thread that connects all of it is that these are not supernatural. These are little green men from Mars. They're weather phenomenon. They're experimental aircraft. The one thing that they don't want you to believe is that they are spiritual entities.
Why would that be so threatening to them?
Well, that's a great question. That is the question.
I don't know, man. All I know is that I believe in this stuff. That's all I know. All I know is that I do believe in beings that are not of this earth, angels and demons, Tucker and JD Vance would suggest.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. I just got to be real with you all. If you follow this channel, I believe in UFOs, whatever you want to call them. I believe in interdimensional, intergalactic, whatever you want, species. I got it, okay? I'm down. I've seen enough evidence. I've seen enough videos. I've heard enough firsthand testimony. I've had enough members of Congress on. I've heard enough stories over my own dinner table with members of the military. I live in a big military community, big Air Force community. Here, MacDill Air Force Base is right down the street from where I live. So I got those guys over at my house. They are telling me what they've seen. They are telling me that no whiskey involved, no booze involved. They're like straight up saying, "We've seen these things. They make no sense. We're flying F-22 Raptors. We're flying the most sophisticated aircraft in the world. You can't make them better than the U.S. military, and these things are clowning on us. Little red triangles, little red tic tacs. They literally, they come right up to the planes, then they zoom off, and they go under the water. It's crazy. What are they? I don't know. Are they? Yes, they are. They're real. And there's enough physical evidence to just accept that reality. So what does that mean for our leaders? My contention is when you see all of the UFO news that's coming out right now, and it's just like a constant series of articles. I mean, look at all these. Just constant articles talking about like new UFO discovery, new sighting. I've never seen news cycles like this, right, with UFOs. It's like a UFO super cycle. Thousands of new reports all the time. Still don't know what the hell with the drones over New Jersey. The point is that eventually our leaders are going to have to come to terms with all of this. And it looks like JD Vance is doing that. And to his great respect, actually. JD Vance is saying something that I think is a really logical contention here. That a considerable portion of the UFOs, some of them may be drones, some of them may be foreign adversaries, but a considerable portion of them may be spiritual in nature. There's no other way to explain, in our laws of physics, the way that these things move. There's no way to explain it. You just can't, right? And I don't pretend to be the world's expert, but you can't. JD Vance making a bunch of news right here, ladies and gentlemen, saying, I don't know, these things are probably spiritual in nature.
One last question about UFOs. So I'm a mad UFO lunatic as well. Yeah. So, and you said, I think the Ruthless podcast, that you were going to, in August, you were going to figure out what happens. So
yeah,
have you
that was a
managed-
little tongue in cheek. I've not figured it out yet. I haven't had the time to figure it out yet.
But you've got access to all this.
I do. And I really want to sort of dig into it. You know, Marco's actually very interested in this too. We talked about this we talked about this back in our Senate days. So yeah, there's certainly an interest there. There's certainly an intrigue, but I haven't yet had the time to really dig in. Things have been so busy, but this is the crazy person inside of me. And there's, all of us put the tinfoil hat on from time to time. I was like, I can't allow myself to become so busy that I spend the next 3 years and I don't get to the bottom of this. So I will get to the bottom of this, but it's going to take me a little time.
Because Tulsi Gabbard says that she believes there are aliens. Do you believe that?
I don't, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that I do or don't believe it. I mean, I'm a big believer that there are things out there that we can't explain. And so if another person sees an alien, maybe I see an angel or a demon. So I'm a big believer that there are like spiritual forces working on the physical world that a lot of us don't see and a lot of us don't understand and a lot of us don't appreciate. But, is it aliens or is it our guardian angel, or is it aliens, or is it a not so guardian force that doesn't care about us, or in fact actively wishes us harm? I don't know the answer to that question. What I try to do is I try to say my prayers. I try to be as good of a person as I can be, and I try to do a good job. And hopefully that's all I need to do.
That answer's gone worldwide. It's the first time anyone has been kind of honest with us. Now, why is it dangerous to be honest about a situation like this? Because it means the government doesn't have full control. But if you're a Christian, if you are a believer, even if you're just like a deist, even if you just believe in God and believe in the supernatural, then you already know that the government doesn't have full control. All of it is an illusion. All of it is a facade. It's a fake, fugazi. And it's best to just actually believe in the full authority of God and to not believe in, AOC, Kamala Harris, right? Like Joe Biden. You think Joe Biden was actually running the country or the universe or even his own bedpan? No, dude. It's actually easier and it's more logical to just say, there have been principalities, there have been spirits, angels, demons, fallen angels, everything, cast down in different dimensions, which I guess would be heaven and hell, right? Anyway. The point is, Tucker's really close with JD, and it kind of really reflects what Tucker, the way that Tucker responds to these things. He was asked a question about UFOs just last week at a Turning Point event.
This is something not political, but I think you like talking about it. Are aliens a religious or extraterrestrial subject?
They're spiritual entities.
They're spiritual beings?
Is my view, yes. Okay. And I don't think they're from another planet. I don't think there's any evidence of that. Or perhaps they are, but they've been resident here for recorded history, and there's every reason to believe for eternity. And this is my belief, and I think there's a lot there. There's also a lot of lying about it and official disinformation designed to confuse people or make you look ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that you read about that subject that was put there in order to get you off the trail. And I'm not guessing at this. Some of it's been declassified. There's been a persistent 75-year effort by the United States government to confuse the population about what these things are that we can see in the sky. And many people have seen. But after looking into it, pretty extensively for a number of years, off camera, my conclusion is that they are the spiritual entities that are described, in the Old Testament, in Ezekiel, but also, I would say, in the sacred texts of all kinds of religions around the world. This is not, basically, I'll stop at this, but our culture is anomalous in the sense that we exclude the possibility of a spiritual realm. And that's only been true in the United States since August of 1945 when we dropped the atom bomb, which was the turning point in history, in my opinion. And it was the beginning of the total destruction of the West, which unfortunately we're witnessing now. And that destruction began with, the same lie that begins all destruction, which is I am God. Hubris is the end, always. It was the point of the Tower of Babel. It's the end of every leader. Every leader who's like, I'm very powerful, I have godlike powers, that leader will be destroyed. And a nation that believes that will be destroyed. And the atom bomb gave us the sense, the false sense, very false sense, that we had absolute power, dominion over nature and mankind itself. And we started making a lot of really bad decisions. So, and one of the results of that was faith died in the United States. It's resurging now, thank God, literally. But for my whole childhood, I was born in 1969, the year that we walked on the moon. And just kidding, sort of, maybe. I have no idea. I'm not going to find out. I'm not going to find out. I've got enough problems. I don't want to know. But anyway, the point is, I was born that year, and for my entire life up until recently, like no one I knew in my world, which is like, coastal, affluent, well-educated, not that I'm well-educated, but everyone else around me is, no one ever like talked about God at dinner. That was like the spiritual realm was like kind of a joke that like is kind of a trailer park belief or who knows what. They're handling snakes. They make TV shows about like no one believed that. And when you don't believe that, you kind of miss everything because it is real, whether you want it to be or not. That's literally real. It's absolutely real. It's as real as this podium. And so to someone living even 100 years ago, the idea that these are, of course, angels, demons, they're manifestations of the spiritual battle ongoing since the beginning of time, that would have been obvious. And instead we're like, maybe they flew in rocket ships from Mars. Do we have a telescope powerful enough to detect that? Oh, shut up. You're missing the obvious, dude.